In this last video, I will quickly discuss to what extent the arguments just given against direct reference theory really support Fegeanism, or Frege's view of communication, as well as Frege's view of meaning. Okay, so Heck's two main arguments, the one based on intuition and the one based on knowledge transfer, these show that direct reference theory is false. Of course, there's an important caveat, which is that this principle, which I've called here mu, which I've written down here, that the meaning of a used expression explains what is required to understand it. Okay, and again, this idea has come up before in the claim that the meaning of an expression explains its cognitive value. Okay, so given this crucial idea, Heck's two main arguments show that direct reference theory is false. But these arguments do not show directly that what I will call below simple Fegeanism is true. And that's because, given this principle that meaning explains use, the MU principle, given that principle, simple Fegeanism entails that understanding requires that the interlocutors think of the referent in the same way. However, all that the two arguments above showed, and when I mean these two arguments, again, just to be clear, I do not mean Heck's argument that defends direct reference theory. I mean this argument here on the basis of intuitions, and this argument here on the basis of claims about the nature of communication. These two arguments simply show that there's something more than thinking of the same referent required for understanding. They do not show that understanding requires that the interlocutors think of the referent in the same way. It's possible that, so let me explain this distinction. And the way to explain it is to put out three different views. You've seen two of them so far. And explain to you, given this principle that meaning explains use, or MU, as I abbreviate it, given the principle MU, each of these three theories about meaning predicts different things about understanding. So direct reference theory, again, is that the meaning of a singular term is just its referent. So given MU, according to this theory, understanding only involves thinking of the same referent in some way or another. And the two arguments we gave above show that this theory is incorrect given MU. But now, what is the simple Fregean alternative? Well, according to Frege, the meaning of a singular term is a sense. So what that means is that, given MU, according to simple Fegeanism, understanding involves the interlocutors thinking of the referent in the same way, according to the same sense. So according to simple Fegeanism, understanding occurs just in case the interlocutors think of the referent in one and the same way. Okay, but notice that this claim is much stronger than what's established by the arguments, for it might be that the arguments simply establish what I've called here moderate Fegeanism. According to moderate Fegeanism, the meaning of a singular term involves a collection of senses. And so what this view predicts, given MU, is that understanding involves thinking of the referent under one of these collected senses. So it might be that the arguments above about knowledge transfer and based on intuitions about these cases is that understanding merely requires that the interlocutors think of the referent in appropriately related or similar ways. Okay, and communication might not require that understanding involves thinking of the referent in the same way. Rather, it might just be that there are some number of ways that one must think of the referent in order for there to be understanding. And this moderate Fregean view is not direct reference theory, but is not as strict or simple as Frege's original view. Okay, so in the next lecture, we'll look at some additional arguments from Heck for why, in fact, moderate Fregeanism is correct and simple Fregeanism is not, and we'll also look at a response on a response that's trying to defend something like Fregeanism on behalf of Dickey and Rattan.